Hey guys, welcome to our reading lesson. Let's go ahead and let's get started by reading our learning target. Remember, our learning target focuses our learning for our lesson. I can understand differences in the points of view of characters in a story. So let's go ahead and let's start out by looking at some words that we know. We know what a character is, don't we? Character are the people or the animals that are in the story or the made-up creatures in the story. So Goldilocks is a character in the story of the Three Bears, okay? So then we also have story. What is a story? Yes, it's a fiction text, right? It has a beginning, a middle, an end with a problem and a solution. Now, there are a couple of things in here that are new to us, so let's look at these things. Point of view, okay? Point of view is something that we've been learning this week. It is the perspective from which a piece of text is written. The perspective is how someone thinks or feels and the actions that they take. So we're thinking about how someone thinks, feels, and the actions that a character has in a text. That is the point of view. Now, one of the things that can help us with what a character thinks or a character feels are the things that they say, and that is called dialogue. Dialogue are the words that the characters say in a play or a story. Like, little pig, let me in, is the dialogue that the wolf says to the pigs. Okay? Now, we need to know about this word differences. You know what a difference is, don't you? What is a difference? How things are not the same, right? So when we're thinking about characters' points of view, we're thinking about how their points of view are different, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started by turning in our Ready Reading Journal to page 272. 272. We're going to read a play today. Raise your hand if this is the first time for you to read a play. All right, put your hands down. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a play before. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever watched a movie, right? In our movie, our characters act differently, right? So in a play is kind of like a movie where we have characters acting differently. Our play today is titled Stage Fright by Wendy Blake. Think about that word fright. What does that word fright mean? Yeah, it's something that's unpleasant. It's kind of scary, right? During Halloween, you could go to a fright fest. It's where it's trying to scare you, okay? When you have stage fright, that means you're nervous about being on a stage, okay? So, based on the title, Stage Fright, I want you to make a prediction. What do you think that this play is going to be all about? Okay? All right, there are a couple of words that I want us to look at before we begin reading today. The first word I want us to look at is the word entire. Entire means no part left out or the whole. The entire restaurant looked at me when I failed. So there wasn't one person that didn't turn and look. The whole restaurant turned and looked when I failed. Okay? So we're going to be talking about the entire school in this play. The entire school, the whole school, okay? All right, and then we're going to have a word that's an emotion word. This emotion is worry. Worry means to be uncertain or anxious over an actual or a potential problem. I was full of worry when my dog escaped our fence. I was full of worry and I was anxious about the problem of my dog escaping because I wanted him to be safe and come back. So worry is an emotion. One of our characters in our story is going to have this emotion of being worried, and they're going to say, another character is going to tell them, don't worry, it's going to be fine, okay? So we're going to be thinking about these words as we are reading. Now, I want us to go ahead and we're going to read this together. Now, you know that when you are watching a movie, It would be so boring if all the characters used the same tone and they said the lines with no emotion, right? So we're going to have to kind of play like we are the characters in this story. Do you see how up here at the top it says setting? This is just what the narrator would read. So we would just read that normal. So let's read the setting just normal. Ready? Read. Amy's house after school. Amy and her friend Pete are talking about the play their class is putting on the next day. Okay, so this tells us kind of what's happening. They're at Amy's house after school. They're getting ready for a play that's happening tomorrow, okay? So then you notice we have Amy, Pete, Amy, Pete, Amy, Pete. So it's a conversation that these two characters, Amy and Pete, are having. So Amy is a girl, so think about how a girl would speak. Pete is a boy, so I want you to think how Pete would speak, okay? We're going to try to read this like a girl and a boy, Amy and Pete, okay? All right, so first we're going to start Amy's line. Ready? Read. Can you believe that tomorrow afternoon we'll be on stage in front of the entire school? It's going to be so much fun. Then we have Pete read, so then we're going to change our voice to Pete. I wish there would be a snowstorm tonight. Then maybe we wouldn't have school tomorrow. Too bad it's spring and not winter. Okay, then Amy. Oh, Pete, there's nothing to worry about. We've been practicing for weeks. Pete. But what if I forget my lines? I don't think I could do this. You won't forget your lines, silly. We just went through them 10 minutes ago, and you were great. All right, so do you see on that sixth line there of Pete, in those parentheses, how it says frowning? We don't read that. That's the emotion that we're going to do, okay? But it's different when you're on stage and everybody is staring at you. Just think about the fun part of acting. You know, the part where you get to pretend you're someone else. All right, then we have that in parentheses again. We're not reading that. We're going to read it in our mind, and we're going to do that action. I wish I really were someone else so I wouldn't have to do this tomorrow. Okay? So I know that first time of us reading through, we were really just practicing reading as a boy and a girl, okay? So now what I want you to do is I want you to read through this again, and I want you to think about what the characters are saying, okay? So that we can find the meaning of this text. So go ahead, pause the video, and read through this one more time, okay? All right, so welcome back. Who are our characters in this story? Pete and Amy, yes. What is this play all about? What is this whole thing all about? I want you to pause the video and talk with someone. What is this whole thing all about? Well, it's all about the play that's happening at school tomorrow. And Pete and Amy are talking about their feelings about the play, aren't they? Great job, guys. All right, now let's go ahead and let's start with our explore question. So after we read it through that first time, now we're going to go back and read it to make sure that we can find the points of view of our characters. So the explore question says, how are Amy and Pete's points of view different? So remember, points of view are what the character thinks, feels, and the actions that they do. That's their perspective, okay? So we want to know how Amy and Pete's are different. So we first need to find the point of view of Amy and then the point of view of Pete to talk about how they are different. Our closed reader habit is going to help us do that. So it says underline sentences in the dialogue that tell you how each character feels about being in the play. So as we're going through, we're looking at the things that they are saying, that dialogue, the characters saying. We're going to look at the things that they're saying and the things that they are doing, their actions that'll also help us, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and read through this again. Setting, Amy's house after school. Amy and her friend Pete are talking about the play their class is putting on the next day. Can you believe that tomorrow afternoon we'll be on stage in front of the entire class? It's going to be so much fun. So what is Amy saying here about the play? She's saying that it's going to be so much fun, didn't she? Okay? All right, Pete. I wish there would be a snowstorm tonight. Then maybe we wouldn't have school tomorrow. Too bad it's spring and not winter. What is Pete saying about the play? He's saying that he wishes there would be a snowstorm. Why do you think that he's wishing that there would be a snowstorm? That's telling us that he's not excited about it, is he? Let's continue to see what Pete says to see if that is a thing that we see about him wishing things so he doesn't have to be on stage, okay? Oh, Pete, there's nothing to worry about. We've been practicing for weeks. What does Amy say? She says there's nothing to worry about the play, didn't she? But what if I forget my lines? I don't think I can do this. What is Pete saying about the play? He's saying he doesn't think he can do this, does he? All right, now we're on Amy's line number 5. You won't forget your lines, silly. We just went through them 10 minutes ago, and you were great. What is Amy saying about the play? She's encouraging him, telling him that he is great. She is excited about it because she's using that word great, isn't she? Pete, but it's different when you're on stage and everyone is smiling at you. Staring at you. What emotion or expression is Pete using? He's using that frown. Now, it said just underline dialogue, but I think it's important to point out that he is frowning. All right, Amy, line 7. Just think about the fun part of acting. You know, the part where you get to pretend you're someone else. Okay, Pete looks down and shakes his head. I wish I really were someone else so I wouldn't have to do this tomorrow. That whole dialogue tells us how he feels about the play. He wishes he was someone else so he doesn't have to do it tomorrow, right? All right, so now let's organize the things that we know about Amy's actions and the things we know about Pete's actions. So, Amy, what does Amy say through the play? What are her words that she uses? She says it's going to be fun, right? That's what she said here. She says there's nothing to worry about. Don't worry. What else does Amy do or say? She describes it as great, right? So let's think about what her point of view is. What is her perspective about the play? She's describing it as fun, telling him, don't worry, saying it's going to be great or he's going to be great. What is Amy's point of view about this play? She's excited, isn't she? So Amy's point of view is she is excited for the play. Right? She's saying it's going to be fun. She's joking around and ensuring Pete not to worry. She's telling him it's going to be great. Now let's think about Pete and the things that Pete said through our play. So first off, he says he wished there would be a snowstorm tonight. So that is something that he's doing. He's wishing for snow. We know what happens when there's snow. What happens when there's snow? We can't come to school, right? It's not safe for us to get to school. All right. What else does he say in the next line where he talks? I don't think I can do this. That's doubting. He is doubting himself. I don't think I can do this. All right. What else does he say? He has that action. He's frowning, doesn't he? All right. And then the last one says, I wish I really were someone else so I wouldn't have to do this tomorrow. So he doesn't want to do the play. All right. So we know that he's wishing for snow. He's doubting himself. He can't do this. He's frowning when he's saying these things. And he doesn't want to do the play. So what is his point of view? How is Pete feeling about the play? He's nervous, isn't he? He's not wanting to do the play. So Pete's point of view is he is nervous about being in the play or about doing the play. And we know that because of the things that he's saying and the actions he's taking. He just flat out said he doesn't want to do it, didn't he? He also has a frown. He's wishing for snow, wishing to be someone else, isn't he? So all these things are telling us that Pete is nervous about the play. He doesn't want to do it, does he? So let's talk about this different points of view. Are Amy and Pete's points of view the same? They're kind of opposite, aren't they? So that's that difference. Amy is excited, but Pete is nervous. All right, let's think about how our voice would change to show each character's point of view. How do you think that Amy's voice would sound as she is saying her lines? Yeah, she's going to be excited. She's going to use expression. I can go back and I can look and I see an exclamation point here in Amy's lines. I see an exclamation point here. I see an exclamation point in line number 7, right? So she is excited about it. She wants it to happen. So when we're reading it, we would read with that excitement, wouldn't we? Now, what about Pete? His point of view is that he's nervous about the play. So how do you think that his voice would sound? Kind of reserved, kind of shaky, right? Think about when you get nervous, you don't really want to talk very much about it. You kind of have those butterflies in your stomach. So as we're saying Pete's lines, that's the way that we should sound, okay? So now what I want us to go back to do, and we're going to go back and we're going to read it again. This time we're going to make our voices sound like Pete's and Amy's, okay? All right, so we're starting with the setting. Amy's house after school. Amy and her friend Pete are talking about the play their class is putting on the next day. Can you believe that tomorrow afternoon we'll be on stage in front of the entire school? It's going to be so much fun. I wish there would be a snowstorm tonight, and maybe we wouldn't have school tomorrow. Too bad it's spring and not winter. Oh, Pete, there's nothing to worry about. We've been practicing for weeks. But what if I forget my lines? I don't think I can do this. You won't forget your lines, silly. We just went through them 10 minutes ago, and you were great. But it's different when you're on stage and everyone is staring at you. Just think about the fun part of acting. You know, the part where you get to pretend you're someone else. I wish I really were someone else so I wouldn't have to do this tomorrow. All right, guys, I want you to go back through. Go ahead and pause the video when you're ready. Go back through and read this play as these characters. You might get someone to also participate with you, and they can be the other character, okay? But I want you to read back through here and change your voice for the characters based on their points of view. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the short response question. The question says, why does Pete feel the way he does about the play? That question word, why, wants to know the reason. What's the reason that Pete feels the way he does about the play? So it wants us to look for details in the text talking about Pete's feelings, okay? So remember, we've already underlined that dialogue, the things that he was saying, okay? So that can kind of help us with his feelings. So now we're going to turn over to page 276 to help us, give us a spot to answer that question, okay? All right, so we need to answer the question of why does Pete feel the way he does about the play? What is the reason that he feels that way, okay? So we're going to start it by restating the question. The question is, why does Pete feel the way he does about the play? So we're going to take that and turn it into a sentence. Pete feels the way he does about the play because all right, so this talks about his point of view. Remember those feelings, how he thinks or how he feels. What is Pete's point of view about the play? He's nervous, right? So Pete feels the way that he does about the play because he is nervous. What is he nervous to do? He's nervous to perform. All right, so we've now restated the question and we've answered the question. Now we need to give evidence, details from the text that let us know that. So the text says, that Pete wishes that there would be a snowstorm. He wishes that there would be someone else. So the text says Pete wishes for things so he doesn't have to do the play. Okay, what else does Pete do to let us know that he feels nervous about performing? Yeah, he's frowning. He even says, I wouldn't have to do this tomorrow, right? So he is down about doing the play and frowning while talking about it. All right, let's go back and make sure that we've answered the question. What is the reason that Pete feels the way he does about the play? Pete feels the way he does about the play because he is nervous to perform. The text says Pete wishes for things so he doesn't have to do the play. He is down about doing the play and frowning while talking about it. Does that answer our question? Yes, and we were able to find the characters' points of view, and then we were able to talk about the differences because Amy felt the opposite way, didn't she? All right, guys, great job. We will continue practicing with point of view.